Welcome, everyone. Are you still having an awesome SharePoint conference? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. End of the third day. You guys are still full of energy. This is amazing. Minus pretend it's caffeine, just to be fully transparent, right? This is all smoke and mirrors over here. We're really excited to be here today. Myself and my partner Matt and our other partner Mike that's out there in the audience to present to you Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. And some of you may have seen this previously called Custom Learning for Office 365. We have evolved our name based on our feedback, and Matt's going to tell you about that. We're really excited about this, and we have a lot to go through with you today. And I'm going the wrong way with the wrong clicker. It's awesome. Just checking to see if anybody was watching the slides. All right. What we really want to talk with you first also is about another thing that we launched here at SharePoint Conference. We are committed to your success. We're committed to the idea of adoption and simplifying adoption of Microsoft 365 services in your organization. And so not only are we launching our Learning Pathways solution, but we've also simplified and consolidated our adoption guidance here on this page. AK.MS Microsoft Adoption just went live during the conference. We're really excited about this because it pulls together the adoption guidance for multiple things. Microsoft 365 All Up, the Security and Compliance Adoption Guide, which is an area that many customers get stuck on. They're trying to figure out the right governance processes that they should think of for their tenant. SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and Yammer adoption guides. And so we're really excited about this. It's also got links to our Service Adoption Specialist course and our Office 365 Champions program. So if you haven't visited this page, please do. And just recognize that it's really part of this new culture of multiple product groups working together to improve the customer experience. And so we're really excited about that. And with that, let's go ahead and go the right way and hand it off to you, Matt. Want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure, thanks, Caruana. I'm Matt Wolodarski. I'm a program manager within the OneDrive and SharePoint engineering organization, and happy to be working with Caruana and Mike and all our other great colleagues back in Redmond on bringing you this great solution, Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. How many folks have heard of this, maybe with the old name, Custom Learning?
Excellent.
All right. How many have actually adopted it and implemented it in their tenant? Okay, excellent. Great. So hopefully we're going to do a good job convincing you that this is something worthwhile to take a look at and to get into your environment and use as a training solution for your end users. Just a quick note on the name change. Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, we made the adjustment just to be kind of more in line with our brand, Microsoft 365, and also point to the direction we're headed with this training solution. So what Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways is basically a ready-to-implement, up-to-date, and customizable training solution that you can install in your tenant environment. And we're going to show you where you can do that within the new SharePoint provisioning service. And once you get it up and running, you can do whatever customization is required to make it fit your environment, and then roll it out to your end users and offer it to them as an on-demand training solution to help them build the knowledge that they need to effectively use the various apps and services of Office 365. So there are four main components to the solution that you can see here on the slide. First off, what you're getting with Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways is a first-run experience, a first-run training experience. It's built on SharePoint communication sites. So with that comes all the goodness of SharePoint communication sites. You get a nicely beautifully designed SharePoint site. It's mobile ready, it's responsive, so you don't have to build a separate app. There's been a lot of thought that's gone into the information architecture and the different learning pathways. And then, of course, there's all the out-of-the-box web parts that you're all familiar with that you can use to bring into the site to make it yours even more. Second is the solution itself is connected to this online catalog of Microsoft curated and maintained end user training. It's essentially all the support.office.com end user training content for Microsoft 365. Today it is focused on Office 365, but we're going to be adding to it over time. And it's a combination of quick start training, product training, scenario training, using a combination of articles and videos. The third component is this new web part that we've built, the Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways web part. And what that's doing is it's bringing in the content feed into the first run site experience and serving up this always up-to-date content. The great thing about the web part is it allows you to customize the playlist within the solution to fit your environment, and we'll of course talk more about that and give you a demo. And then finally, all of this is easily installed in your tenant environment using the SharePoint provisioning service. So without any code, within 15 minutes is what our testing has shown from beginning to end to get this installed, provided you follow the prerequisites. You'll have what we're going to demo to you today in your environment. So hopefully that's something that you can take away from the conference and get up in your environment and start playing around with it and thinking about how you can leverage it within your environment. Okay, let me talk a little bit about why we built it. This is a journey that we've been on for a couple years, to be honest. We've spoken to a number of customers, hundreds of customers. We've gone through a couple pilots, and we heard loud and clear. Customers need help in terms of providing their end users with training on Office 365. It's a critical part, along with awareness, getting the right stakeholders and scenarios in place to driving effective and sustained end user adoption of Office 365 and Microsoft 365. So that was kind of number one requirement. Give us a site that's out of the box that we can get into our environment and provides this full training experience. Second is, you want to be able to customize the content. What you'll find on support.office.com, for those of you that are familiar with that, is it's the out-of-the-box experience with Office 365. And you may have configured or implemented Office 365 a little bit differently. And so you want to be able to customize it so you don't confuse your end users with the content that may not match how you've essentially rolled out Office 365 in your environment. If you've configured external sharing in OneDrive in a particular way, you don't want to confuse users with the out-of-the-box experience. Or if you've decided to hold off rolling out Yammer, then you want to be able to hide Yammer content for the time being until you are ready to roll out Yammer in your organization. So all of it is highly, highly customizable, not just using the customization features of communication sites, which you get out of the box, but with the web part, as I spoke about, and which you'll see in a moment. In addition to that, it's very critical that the content that is coming into your environment remains up to date. Obviously, as an evergreen service, Office 365 is constantly delivering new innovations, new features, new products, new services. You don't want to be in the content maintenance business. We've spoken to some customers that had built a solution just like this. However, it was using static content, so they constantly had to keep track of the changes, go back, and maintain the site. And that's a big hassle, and we want to take that responsibility on your behalf for the Microsoft curated and maintained content that we're streaming in. You'll have the ability to create your own training content, and obviously that's something that you'll have to update, but the Microsoft curated content is what we're keeping up to date.
And the other smaller piece there too is we also heard from, especially from success owners in organizations, that they had content in a variety of locations. They would have to go to, they could find information on success.microsoftoffice.com, but there was also other training guidance in other locations. And this was especially true across the workloads. So it was reasonably straightforward to find content about Excel, but when you thought about SharePoint or something new like Microsoft Teams or Skype for Business, you had to go to different different locations. And that actually represented another part of the service that we all came together with was this idea of having the site template itself to wrap that in and making sure that we were providing that single location for users in your organization. So.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
No problem.
A little bit of curveball just for the second. That's okay, keeps me on my toes. Okay, so just before we go in and do a demo of the solution, I just want to give you a very high level kind of architecture and how this solution works. So we spoke about this always up-to-date content feed. We're taking that from support.office.com. That's coming into CDN that we've set up on GitHub. So on a regular basis, we're going to be pulling in that content from support. And then it gets delivered into your own instance of Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways via that web part. And of course, all nicely assembled and configured as part of this first run training site experience.
And as we continue to build out additional enhanced playlists, we'll be pulling in information from docs.microsoft.com as well. For those of you who are following the team's implementation journey, you know we have some end user content there. We have additional playlists and some of our day in the life content, which are training leave behinds and other items that you may have seen in some of our additional adoption materials. So we'll make sure to make that available in this central location as well as we continue to do content updates over time. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our roadmap slide.
All right, great. So on to the demo.
It does
that. Was
that.
a little
okay, it's not just me. That's awesome.
What number are we here?
Here we go. I'll take care of it for you.
Okay, great.
There you go.
Thanks.
You're
so
welcome.
Here you go. Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. As I mentioned, this is built on a communication site, so it has a certain feel that, of course, you can customize and make your own. Just before I kind of go into the details here, what I'm going to be showing you is primarily the end user view. I'm going to show you a couple of ways in which you can easily enhance and customize this, but Caruana is going to go beyond that, show you how this can be brought into Teams and all the rich administration capabilities. So my focus is really more on the end user experience. And so when we went to design this site, one thing that we wanted to make sure that we baked into the solution is this recognition that all of us as individual learners have our own preferences when it comes to how we like to learn. You know, some of us like to dive right in and just give me the basics. I don't want to waste a lot of time in training. I'll take on the risk and I'll fill in the gaps as I go along. So we've got a pathway for those folks. For those that are a little bit timid, before dipping their toe into the water, they want to make sure they fully immerse themselves in the product training. So that's the second of the three primary learning pathways. And then finally, we all know that we use Office 365, not for a set of features, but for getting work done. So we have a set of scenario-based learning paths that we'll take you through. Okay. But I'm that learner who really wants to just get in and start using and start being dangerous. So I'll go to this, start with 6 simple steps. What you see here is all dynamically served up content. I'm going to prove it to you here. I'll just click on edit. This is a web part. We don't have any static content that you're going to have to maintain here. So that's nice. I just wanted to show you how that works. And then you'll get this playlist that you can browse through by just clicking on the arrows. And as we talked about, the content here is a combination of article-based content and video-based content. So with my 6 simple steps, I get a nice introduction to Office 365. There's a nice video. What you'll find with these videos is they're very purposely designed to be short, consumable. One of the great advantages of this solution, I think, is there's a huge team behind the scenes, the Modern Assistance and Experience team at Microsoft that are building this end user training content. And so they're constantly learning what works best, testing the content, and that's kind of the benefit of it. And the videos that you see here, as I was mentioning, they're quite short. They are typically under 2 minutes, on average a minute and a half, designed to keep your attention, recognizing we all have short attention spans these days. So I'll just kind of flip through this. It walks me through everything from signing in to creating and saving. to working with my team, setting up mobile apps. So again, a lot of thought has gone into what are those sticky features and tools within Office 365 that warrant being in this 6 simple step playlist. If you decide for your own organization that you've got 3 simple steps, we're going to show you later how you can hide that Microsoft provided playlist with your own 3 simple step playlist. Okay, so that's the quick start path. Remember those people, those learners like me who like to immerse themselves in training? That's where we go into the detailed product training here. So, for example, lots of really good, rich Excel content. If one of your users has been asked by their manager to start brushing up their Excel skills and doing more work within Excel, this is a great place to come. And they can go through the different playlists that we provide out of the box. So, for example, just to orientate myself with Excel as a bit of a quick start, I can go through the video and learn a little bit about a workbook, entering data. I mean, this is for the beginner, obviously. As I advance through these playlists and build my capability, I can move on to things like building charts. And if I'm really feeling confident and bullish, why not give my hand at pivot tables, which took me a couple of years to really wrap my hand around.
That's really exciting, pivot tables. We like that.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Who knew pivot tables would get an applause?
I know, right?
Okay, so those are 2 of the 3 training paths. The final is the scenario playlist. So I'll go into these recommended playlists. And this is, again, for kind of acknowledging that we use Office 365 and Microsoft 365 to get things done. One common scenario, for example, is how we all work with others to create content. There's a number of other scenarios here over time we'll look to add. This is something that, depending upon the scenarios in your organization that are most relevant, you could easily add your own scenario playlist here as well. But let's go into creating content together. And so these playlists look across the suite. It doesn't just focus on OneDrive or Teams or Excel. It really covers all the apps and services that you'll need, in this case, to create content with your colleagues. So it'll just walk me through that process. And then I can feel confident inviting some colleagues to create some content with me. To kind of jump into some key training playlists, we've got some navigation here to help with that. So if I want to get started with Teams really quickly, as an example, I can jump in here. Maybe I want to learn about starting chats and making calls. I'll watch that and read the text. If I want to invite a colleague to start chatting with me on Teams, maybe I'm a champion within the organization and it's my job. I've taken on the responsibility to get all my colleagues on my team to start using Teams. Then I'll just copy the link here, maybe spin up an email and send it off to my team, or more preferably in a group chat in Teams with my team members, and provide them with the link, deep link, directly to the playlist itself. I can also take that playlist link and going back, and I'm just going to touch a little bit on administrator here, but this is very lightweight. We've got the hero web part here. Maybe for next month, the month of June, I really want to focus my organization on Teams. That's a big push for us. So I could easily come in here and edit one of the hero graphics and insert a Teams-orientated graphic and pop that link in. So when people come to the home page, they can jump right to that Teams playlist. And you might want to cycle through the different apps and services on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to help bring your colleagues and your end users along in using the different capabilities of Office 365. So just a couple last things here I want to show you. There is a few other out-of-the-box web parts. So for example, we've included the news web part. So this is a way that you can get the word out about what's happening with Microsoft 365 in your organization. If you've launched a new intranet, for example, this might be a good vehicle to kind of get that word out using the SharePoint News. If you're launching Yammer after you've launched some of the other key workloads, then again, that might be worthy of a news post. Typically, organizations will use a mix of training, not just on demand like this, not just a training site, but they could do in-person training, maybe live training on Microsoft Teams. So use the events web part to advertise those as a complement to this on-demand training. The one last web part I'd suggest you consider adding is the Yammer conversation web part. A best practice that we've seen is when our customers roll out Office 365, they set up a Yammer user group where people can ask questions, get answers, share success stories, share best practices. So that's something that you can easily add. Just set up the Yammer group, bring in the Yammer conversation web part, and that live conversation will be here as a way to entice people and engage your end users to learn even more beyond the training playlists that are in the solution. So the final thing that I wanted to show you here is the ask questions and get help. So thinking about this is really supplemental, again, to your training mix. You may have a help desk. You may have a Yammer group that you've set up. So this section is where you can promote some of those other help and training options. So come here, customize it. If you've got that help desk, point them to the 1-800 number or the Teams chat line, whatever the case may be, to represent the full complement of your training offerings for your end users. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Caruana to go through some of the admin capabilities.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt. That was awesome. Okay, does this solution have love from this audience? Do you like what you see? Come on. Let's have some love here. Thank you so much. It really has been a lot of work to bring this to market. I'm excited about it. And I love some of the key points that Matt made. I'm going to hop over into administration, but remember that this is something you have to drive adoption of like other things. You can't just provision it and all of a sudden people will magically show up, right? We've created adoption tools specifically to help you drive adoption to the portal, but this may be something that you're building into a much bigger conversation within your organization about how you do help, support, service onboarding, things of that nature. But at least this part can be very simple, but it's part of a much bigger picture, right? And so we want to always keep that in mind. I love that you can customize this. As a former IT pro, anything that makes my life simple is a good thing. So I love that you all can customize this with your own information. And of course, you can also add some additional pages or other things you may want to as you use the full capabilities of the SharePoint communication site. Before I go into provisioning, a couple things I do want to call out about that. I'm going to hop over back to our main page here that has the web part housed on it. What I want to say is that if you add additional pages to the site or you customize your playlist, things of that nature, as we update training content in particular product areas, your customizations will be preserved. We're not updating the portal itself in your organization as after you provisioned it. We are streaming updated content through the architecture of this web part as we've included it in your environment. So you can customize with confidence. You might want to change the theme. You might want to do some branding on the site. You may be working with one of our amazing partners that are giving you value-added and important services in a much broader service adoption and training program. So we've taken that into account as we've designed this. So I just want to call a couple of those things out. So as we go over here, let me hop over here to our driving adoption forum. Further updates and information about this solution will always be posted on our blog here. And this is our launch and awareness blog. So you can go and get further information that went live today at noon. And it's got all of the relevant links and what have you. But you want to hop over to this driving adoption blog and make sure that you are grabbing that RSS feed or subscribing to it so you get information, not only about this solution, but other things like the adoption resources area and what have you. So once you're here and you've looked at that blog post, you're going to get to our documentation. So our documentation, full robust documentation, lives on docs.microsoft.com, and we continue to refine this based on feedback in the community. But it gives you all the provisioning and adoption information that you need about the service. It also gives you links to our online feedback and support forums. And I do want to call out here that this is an open source solution. So this is served by the community and our group of service managers inside of Microsoft, but it's a free solution. There's no cost for this, and consequently, you can't, yay. Okay, give me some, see, more love, more applause. We get applause at the most odd moments. I suppose free, I should have known that free was going to get us some applause. I should have thought about that. But the point is, though, it's free, and that's fantastic. But it also means that you cannot call our support line and get help with it. Okay? So what we'll go through the support process, but I do want to call that out, and we've documented all that here in our documentation, so you can read more about that. And if you're familiar with open source solutions, you'll know what I'm talking about. Here is the provisioning engine. So I think this is amazing. I don't know how the team thought of this, but I really wish I would have had something like this when I was a SharePoint administrator. This is another example of a bunch of people in Microsoft coming together with the community and really smart folks and creating an engine that allows you to provision demonstration sites directly into your own tenant. And so we are working with the folks who own this solution and who are well known in the SharePoint industry. And we have this area called solutions here. Okay, and so you can go through the provisioning engine itself and you can see the different types of SharePoint, modern SharePoint experiences which you can provision. Or you can click over here on solutions and come into our Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways page. Now, what you should do is you should be signed in. To install this solution, you need to be an Office 365 Global Administrator. How many of you in this room are O365 Global Administrators? Good, that's awesome. Okay, but if you're not, you need to work with whoever is your tenant Global Administrator in your organization to complete the installation. We do have provisioning instructions, as I said, step by step, but that's the first and foremost thing you need. The second thing you need is, even if you are a global administrator, you need to be a site collection administrator on your app catalog in your tenant. Okay? And that will, if you are neither of those two things, you will not be able to complete the installation. So it's just important to know that up front so that you don't get frustrated and think you're, oh great, in 15 minutes I'm going to have this. Oh no, I'm not. So go ahead and check that out. But once you've done that and you've signed in with your tenant credentials here into this experience, you'll be able to simply add this to your tenant. I'm actually going to do that briefly here. And the experience is super simple in terms of once you're in. Great, here I already remembered who I was. I'm going to go ahead back to solutions. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to say add to my tenant. I must have given good offerings to the demo gods. Look at that, it came up. That is so cool. Did you see how it logged me in, like it remembered who I was, and now it's to the page? That's fantastic. Okay, so what's happening here is you have very little information that you have to provide the administration experience to actually provision this template. But a couple of things to call out. We do some usage data tracking. It's aggregated. It's only about views of the pages. You can opt out if you want. And there's instructions directly here about how you can opt out of the data that we collect. It's nothing user specific. We don't collect any PII. We take your privacy and the security of your data very seriously. But should you want to opt out, you're certainly able to do that. We like to see how many people have installed it. Is it getting used? Right? Are we successful with this? That's what we're actually looking for. There's a notification email address. It's automatically taken the credentials from how I've signed into the experience, and that's where it's going to email me when the provisioning is complete. Right? So it's going to give you a notification via email when it's done. Now it's giving you an opportunity here to figure out where you want to install this in sites or teams. And that simply depends on the information architecture that you have in your organization. Many of us who come from a classic SharePoint background, we would install this in sites because it is a organization-wide site that we want to maintain differently. It's a little bit different from a team collaboration site that people can automatically provision. But that's a little bit of historical thinking there. So, you know, it's totally up to you how you do that. And then you're going to want to give it a name that makes sense in your organization, right? And of course, it needs to be a name that is available in your particular tenant. SPC19 is what I'm going to say. And then all you're really going to have to do is click provision, and it's going to validate in your tenant where you're signed in if that URL is available. If it's not, it'll tell you, right? So you can't duplicate it. It's checked that. Everything is good, and now I can go ahead and click provision, and the provisioning process will start. And as I mentioned, when you're done with that provisioning, it's going to send you an email and say, hey, the site that you have requested has been provisioned, and it'll have a URL right in there that you can click on. And when you click on that, you will be here at the default experience. So again, you're here in the default experience. You can do any customization you want, theming, you know, new information, additional pages, and so all that is a great thing, but you can go further. Here by default, we have the Custom Learning Administration page. You are going to love this page. This page is spectacular. It really is. Uno momento. Okay, let's do this elsewhere. It is spectacular. I promise you it's spectacular. I spoke too soon about the demo gods. That was my problem. All righty. Yeah. Right. Anybody here a site administrator? That is spectacular. I can't even read that. Okay, that's even worse. Okay, fantastic. Let's make sure that I'm logged in. I am going to do something else here real quick. Let's take another look. Yes. Hey, bam. That was user error, by the way. That was total user error. That was on me. So persistence is a quality of a SharePoint administrator. If you did not know that already, you know that now. Okay. This page is spectacular because it allows you to customize the user experience based on the workloads that you yourself have provisioned. Okay? You'll see these lovely little icons here, and they're, as you might expect, show and hide. Right? You can show and hide different information depending upon what you're looking at. So maybe you're in an organization who has, very commonly in government and in some aerospace industries, they don't use like Microsoft Project or Planner. They have custom project management tools, like if you're at NASA or something. So because of that, I'm going to click down here into Planner, and I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off the Planner information within the quick start information and also using Planner. I think I clicked that twice, sorry. Now I am going to refresh the experience, and I'm going to hop over to I'm going to open this in a new tab so that we can see it. And I am going to, let's do this. Let's go ahead and open this in a new tab. There we go. And I'm going to go up here to all of the content, and you're going to see here that Planner's no longer in the list. Okay, so all I had to do was go and turn it off, and poof, Planner's gone. It's that fast. It's not like you have to wait for search to crawl it. It's not like you don't have to wait for anything. You just turn things on and off as it makes sense in your organization. This is also very helpful if you are going to create your own custom playlist, because you might want to have that custom playlist off as you go ahead and build it out, right? And this way also, here's another thing I love about this. You don't have to do permissions. Okay? There's not permissions management built into this system, and that's a good thing. It's a user experience management, which is part of our evolution at Microsoft of what we're doing. So lastly, let me hop back over here. I am going to come to the top, and I'm going to go ahead and say plus. All right, so I'm creating a new playlist here. You can see me as a form, right? I can give my playlist a name. Vacation planning. Let's do something fun. Come on, you know you all want a vacation after being here and having your brain fed for multiple days. All right, recuperate from Vegas. All right, I can give this new playlist a category. Do I want it to be in getting started, in products, or I happen to want this to be in scenarios? This is a scenario. And yes, it's the modern workplace, because in the modern workplace, we have work-life balance. So vacation planning and making sure that your work is covered while you're gone is a part of what we do when we take leave. No one's believing me at all about this. I'm not feeling like you guys are believing me at all. Now, I can go further and I can select the type of technology where I want this to show up. I'll go ahead and say I want it to show under M365, and this is going to be beginner because it's important. Now, you can implement audiences. We will be doing more with audiences at a later date as we go through the experience. So I can save those details. I have an icon. I could change that icon if I wanted to. Now, what's really fantastic, let me say, log in here. I need to go ahead and close this. Oh, yes, of course I do. Yeah, of course. Let's say I'm going to say Enduser. Here we go. Boom. Now I'm going to save that detail. Thank you for that. Okay, so I can search for an existing asset if I want to, or what's even more important is I can go ahead and click New. So this is no different than creating an additional SharePoint page or putting in a URL to an existing video that might be available. How many of you are using Stream today for training purposes? Excellent, right? You can put in a Stream video here and really make sure you're having a secured enterprise experience for the content and the training that you're doing. So the point here is that this is a customizable experience. You can build your own playlists out. You have an opportunity to customize this while getting new things from us. And we're just really excited about the ability to do that. The last thing that I wanted to show for you here, back in our area, is feedback and support. So if you do have questions about our solution, you can do a couple things. You can report your issues in our GitHub list. We do view that on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, it's daily, and try to triage those and figure out if it's a known issue or if it's some way that we can have someone in the community provide you assistance. You can provide suggestions for new features from an administrative perspective or an end user perspective in our user voice instance. We're always listening to that feedback, and so we certainly want to make sure that you have a great experience. We do encourage you to read through the documentation, understand the permissions that are required to install the solution, and take a look at our known issues and our frequently asked questions before getting going. Okay? There you go. Let's switch back. Yes, absolutely. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our roadmap a little bit. And you heard me allude to some of these issues just a moment ago. This is an open source solution. And for those of you who are familiar with that, you're going to be excited because there are many benefits to an open source solution. It is by definition open, and that means that it's free. Secondly, it enables rapid development because other people in the community, customers like yourself, but also MVPs and others, they can contribute to the solution. Now, our service management team, what we do is we review the contributions to our solutions, and we decide what actually gets merged into the master package. And we would communicate those things to all of you via our blog before any fundamental changes were made. But we do encourage that sort of development out there. And that collaboration, of course, also enables us to work with our partners. And our partners are here with us today. We really appreciate the fact that they're here. And we'll go through and introduce them. But the core issue is that there are many partners who provide training solutions, adoption, change management, and value-added services out there. This solution is not intended in any way to replace what they're doing. They are invaluable to your use of Office 365. But we do think that we can help them get to value and provide a framework for them to continue to give of those services. So we love that this is open source, and consequently we can embrace that broader initiative, because there's more than one way to do this work. Now, some considerations you should be mindful of is that this is not, Microsoft is not a commercially available product. That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't want my badge to keep working tomorrow at all. Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways is not a commercially available product. And what that means is that it is free, but it's also not included or supported in any support agreement that you have for Office 365 or M365 services today. So again, you can't log a help desk ticket about that. And if you tweet that, I will kill you. You're my friend, so you can't do that to me. Anyway, I'm totally giving you a hard time. So we do support the service through an online issues list, as I mentioned before, and M365 Learning Pathway is not covered by any support contract. We are taking a look at the timing by which we triage those issues, but usually it's daily. That's Monday through Friday, Redmond time. That is the time zone in which we are currently working, okay? So making sure you have that information. Now, let's talk about the roadmap. So what you'll find in the solution today is all of that awesome support.office.com content and some of the day in the life materials, but we will be enhancing the materials significantly. We plan on delivering multi-language support of all of the content. If you go to support.office.com today or docs.microsoft.com, it is already supported in multiple languages, but inside the experience we'll be supporting those 9 languages. And also we'll be supporting multiple templates or content sets. And this is something that our partners are going to need. And we also believe that there could be multiple types of templates by industry, for instance, for healthcare, or for those of you who are success owners and adoption change management folks inside an organization. But we want to maintain the purity of the end user experience. So we're going to look at supporting those multiple templates. And to that end, we have a Microsoft 365 adoption planning guidance by workload, and we're going to translate that into playlists that will be available in another template through the provisioning engine. We're committing to quarterly updates of the online content, and we'll make sure to move towards, between July and December, the open source release of the complete solution. The template is available today. We are still working on the open source release of the web part itself. So that's the part that will be coming in the future. And of course, we will be making sure that our partners have access to that, because the partners who are here today are part of our early adopter program. And that early adoption program gives them access to those tools and that open source code ahead of time so that they can begin to work with that with their additional solutions and training content that they create as a part of the services that they provide. We are prioritizing the template for education, for the government cloud, and for first-line worker scenarios. We'll be including that. And when we talk about first-line worker, we talk about mobile, we talk about healthcare workers, manufacturing, service workers in the field, things of that nature. And those scenarios aren't in this solution today, so we'll be needing to add that as a part of our content process. All right. So we've talked a little bit about adoption already. One of the things about creating an adoption plan is that you want to have tools. And so this is the information that's available on our docs site. We really want to make sure that as you roll this out, you're connecting this to other business outcomes. This isn't about the features of Office 365. This is about what you're trying to enable. And you've probably heard us say that a bunch this week, but we really mean it, right? What are you trying to empower people to do, and then create the learning experience around that, making sure you have that clear connection, and make sure that you have a clear line between the other employee investments that you're making as well as this. And it really is time for us to invest in our employees. Our employees, have been doing things the same way for a long time, and they need some assistance and support, and they deserve that so that they can be effective as they move forward with really the modern workplace. I'm probably more sensitive to that because I sit in Teams now, and Teams is a new paradigm for the way things work. And so whether or not they happen to be you know, finding the site inside of Teams or learning how to chat, to your point, or anything else, we want to make sure they can make that transition. You can obviously join the community, but also we have an adoption kit that's available to you. Then you can take our templates for emails and awareness materials that have been written by the team and use that to help launch it, or simply use them as a template to get inspiration for how you might want to move forward. Okay, a couple of things we should talk about when it comes to measuring impact, right? So a couple of things that Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways is an LMS, right? We are not tracking the completion of the employees doing each playlist. Okay. So that's not something that we're doing, but you can tell from built-in SharePoint Online telemetry and actually analytics the usage of the site itself. So we would recommend to you using that built-in telemetry and SharePoint Online, those site analytics, to see what sort of usage your site is getting. And to Matt's point earlier, having that Yammer community or another way that people can ask questions and give feedback is another great way to make sure that people are having an ongoing learning experience.
All right, great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about partner and some of the opportunity there. As Caruana had mentioned, we've got a group of amazing training partners, and we've worked very closely with them. Their offerings, you know, go above and beyond what we're providing. This isn't to replace that, so I want to frame that kind of partner opportunity a little bit more. And it starts with this equation. You've probably seen it in a number of different Microsoft presentations, especially at partner conferences, just to give you a view on how we see the world. Obviously, it starts with making our customers successful. That's critical. And when our customers are successful, those partners that have enabled them to be successful are themselves successful. And it's only at that stage do we consider Microsoft successful. And so along those lines, in the context of Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, there's a number of partners, and we're going to highlight the ones that we're currently working with that have differentiated offerings that go beyond Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, whether it's instructor-led courses, instructor-led design, advanced end-user analytics, gamification, personalization, live support, just a tremendous amount, and I'm probably leaving off a number of advanced capabilities, but just a tremendous amount of capabilities to extend the adoption and training experience within your organization. So today, we're very pleased to announce that we've got a partner early adoption program for Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. And what this partner program is really designed for, any registered partner or Microsoft MVP is eligible to join. And we're going to be providing this ongoing forum that you can learn about our plans for Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, our roadmap, both the new content that we're going to be onboarding as well as new features and functionality. We're going to be providing partners in this program with early access to the onboarding guidance to get their content and their capabilities into the solution, as well as, of course, the tooling that will be necessary to make that work within Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. So we do have a number of early enrollees to date. If I could just recognize each of those, because they've been putting tremendous investment, and it's been a great partnership. As I read through these names, if you wouldn't mind, if you're here, to raise your hand. So just to start with Storials. All right,
there
great.
You are.
Thank you.
Hi.
Planet Technologies.
There you are. Planet, the awesome Planet.
Sarah Haas.
Awesome.
Content Panda.
There she is.
Visual SP.
Yeah.
And Vitalist.
Yes.
Okay. And because of these differentiated offerings and extensions of what we're providing as this base Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, we've got customers who, through some of the early piloting that we did and some of the beta previews, worked with our solution, the Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, in conjunction with whatever partner they were working with in terms of their training solution. So it isn't necessarily an either or. There's a real opportunity for these solutions to work together well in your environment.
It's fantastic.
We just have some guidance here, but I'm going to move through this quickly because I think you got a sense of it with Caruana's demo of some of the administration responsibilities and capabilities. I think this would become a handy resource for you when you go back to the office and get access to these slides or take your picture here.
Yes,
certainly.
This is the one to take the picture of, not that other one. Take the picture. Take the picture here, please. Yeah, that's great.
On our docs pages, a tremendous amount of detail on how to install, how to customize, FAQs. So that is really your go-to resource. We talked about the provisioning service. That's a direct link into the learning pathway solution. If you've got issues, we talked about where to go, and of course our user voice for any feedback or enhancements that you'd like to see with the solution. So just to close, I'm going to hand it back to Caruana to share some next steps in action planning.
Okay, fantastic. So do you think you can use this in your organization? Yes? You're hearing a yes? Okay, that is wonderful. We definitely want you to use it. We want to use it. We want you to engage with our awesome partner community and give us your feedback, right? It's really important that you engage out on user voice. Ask for different content. Tell us about your experience. That's where you can make suggestions to us that directly affect our backlog of how we're going to deliver content to you. And, you know, it's a real privilege and an honor. We are representing many, many people back in Redmond and around the world who work on this content. Our partners here who are sitting here in the audience. But there's a lot of people involved in this, and we're all super passionate about supporting you. So please make sure that your voice is heard by engaging in that user voice forum. And then, of course, join us. Join us in the Driving Adoption forum as well, and tell us how your journey is going. There's a lot of customers out there who are doing things just like you. And frankly, that's what I think is most valuable about this space in general, is the community that we have and how we can learn from each other about how we're doing adoption and training and dealing with deployment issues or what have you. But there's a human element that we're trying to support, and it really is empowering our employees to achieve more. That is not a slideshow. That is not just some sort of marketing slogan. It is what we are really trying to do. So we want these solutions to be a part of that. Once you go through and you learn more, you'll install and customize, and then you'll start driving adoption. And make sure that it is connected to those business objectives that you have in your organization, whatever they may look like. They may be about your own cultural transformation. Here at this conference, we have an entire track on diversity and inclusion and belonging, and there's a reason for that. Because driving those inclusive teams and making sure people feel empowered and comfortable in knowing what to do is a part of crafting success in any organization. The research is out there. You can go take a look at it. But it also happens to just feel good when we make sure that we are reducing the anxiety of people going through this kind of a transformation. The modern workplace is a fantastic thing, but it does introduce some stress and what we call change fatigue into people's organizations. And we want to help you help them not have that stress, right? That's not the purpose of Microsoft 365. We're here for other ends. So use our services, have a conversation with us, and make sure that your voice is heard so that we can continue to deliver you great solutions as you're on this adoption and education journey. So we are going to have a little bit of time. It looks like a few minutes for any questions from the audience. We have one right over here. Hi. That's a great question. Yes, so the question is, if you're not a tenant admin, but you work with them to get the site template set up, will you still have access to the custom administration page for the site? Yes, you will. You can, once the site is installed, you'll have an opportunity to set up permissions for that site based on your organization. So they will need to make you a site owner once they've installed it. But once they've done that, you can get to that page. And that page, and like with all SharePoint sites, pages can have permissions. We don't necessarily recommend that, even though it's possible. But yeah, you can certainly get to it. Yeah, great question. Yes, in the middle here, orange shirt.
When you created the playlist, in the playlist you are adding a playlist specific to some information like login and all those things. Does it come as icons like the way you have for Word, Excel, or does it?
Oh yes. Yes, it does. So the question is, when you create a custom playlist, does it include an icon? Does it show up in that way? Yes, it does. It will show up in whatever category you've assigned to it. It has a default kind of checklist icon that you saw there, but you can add additional customized icons if you want. I'm a visual person. I always tend to customize the icon for my playlist just because I like to, but you don't have to. It's built in. Hang. Oh, it's going to show up in the main, sorry, let me hop back real quick. I can actually show that. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go to my site. Not that one. No, I'm not going back there. Okay, I am going here, and it's going to show up in the place where you have the main web part installed. It's simply a part of the web part at this point, and you have an opportunity. It would show up in this area. Right, underneath the category, for me it would show up under modern workplace scenarios. Had I finished, it would show up right here. So the category that you select is where it appears. You can also then take the URL for that and put it on its own page if you wanted to, and then you'll just see that particular playlist.
And in addition to that, you can take, now that you've created that playlist, you can drop the web part, configure to that particular playlist that you just created onto a page as well. It doesn't, I mean, one option is just to drop the link in, but you can also do it within the interface of the playlist.
Yes, for sure. Okay, all the way in the back, you had your hand up. There's two pieces to that. It's not available to provision in government clouds today. We're working on resolving that, and we have a dependency on what happens with the provisioning engine as a whole to be able to do that. That's probably going to take a period of time, but there is also going to be content for government. Part of what we released this week is for instance, a Teams in Government adoption guide. So we're really trying to have the right industry support and flavor for government, but it will take some time for us to be able to provision the template in government, in GCC and GCC High and DoD itself. I would tell you that it'll probably come to GCC and then there'll be a delay, and then it will come to GCC High and DoD tenants. You had a question, Susan?
Yeah. So if you make your own custom video training,
Yes.
do you store that in stream or will you store it in the site collection?
Oh, I would store it in stream. That would be my answer to Summon Mike. Yeah. I would. So the question was, if you have your own custom video content that you've created for a process, where would you store it? And our recommendation would be for you to store that in stream. There's a variety of reasons for that, but yes. You can use content that's in other services or even external content, like from YouTube. But if you're doing your own content internally, yeah, store it in stream and integrate it there. That's great. I thought there was a question over here. Yes, ma'am. Well, you can. So the question is, will it be able to work like or with a bot? I'm sorry. With a bot. Oh, with a bot. You could wire it. I haven't tried it though, so I'm pretty sure you could do that. But it's not like this data is sitting in the graph. It is a part within SharePoint, so I would have to test it out. My gut would say yes, but since I haven't tested it, I don't know for sure.
I have seen one customer do that.
Oh.
I didn't get into the details of the implementation, but it was featured on the homepage as another way to get help. But yeah, I think to Caruana's point, there would have to be the work done to get the bot to know the information, get trained on the information, and integrate it into the site.
Yeah, and you know, there is a Azure Q&A bot process that's super simple to create. You would just have to wire this to that. So that's an interesting conversation for the community. That's why it's open source. I'm sure one of our partners or an MVP will figure that out at some point. And that's exactly why we released this open source, because there's a lot of those scenarios that aren't really core to or germane to what we're trying to do in terms of bringing all this content together for Microsoft. But that's a great scenario for somebody out in the field. Okay, yes.
When you're making the playlist, if you have videos and text content, so whether it be how would you combine those in the playlist?
You'd want to think through the steps. You can have text and videos on the same. Maybe you want, I can give you spec if you want to demo that. But what I was going to say is, yeah, you can go here. Here we go. Oh, that's right. Let me actually show you one of those off the top of my head here. Let me go back over here. You can certainly build those things in together, but one of the things that I would encourage you to do is think through the steps of your process. Oftentimes it's really good to have a quick 60-second overview video and then step through the text versus having it all together, although many videos have content underneath it. But just think it through. Sometimes when people are designing training playlists, they put too much in one thing. So the idea here is to be able to break it down in more discrete segments for sure. All right, I think we are going to run out of time here. We will certainly be here to take some more questions. I'm going to make sure to get back to this page here so everyone can see it. You know, we know that you're going to have more questions. We'll answer a few more after this. If you have some more, please come to the Ask Me Anything. That's going to be our last big bang. We have some prizes to give away. We want to make sure you're there. And so please join us there. And thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate all of your interest. Thank you.